Welcome back, coin lovers and treasure hunters. Today we're diving deep into the fascinating world of modern United States coinage to uncover one of the most exciting pieces you may still encounter in circulation, the Washington State $quarter coin from the year 2022. Now, some people may look at modern quarters and think they're just everyday change, something you spend at a vending machine or drop into a parking meter. But the truth is, certain quarters, especially from the Washington Quarter series, have the potential to be incredibly valuable. So if you've ever had a handful of change and ignored it, today's story might change the way you look at coins forever. The Washington Quarter series has a long and rich history that stretches back to 1932, originally issued to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Over the decades, the coin's design has evolved many times, but one of the most celebrated series of designs was the State Quarters program. Launched in 1999 and continuing until 2008, this program honored each of the 50 states with a unique reverse design. These state quarters became some of the most widely collected coins in history, pulling millions of new people into the hobby of coin collecting. Even after the original 50 states were completed, the U.S. Mint continued with follow-up series, honoring territories, national parks, and later American women quarters. And in 2022, certain issues of the Washington State Quarter resurfaced as highly collectible coins, with special strikes, minting varieties, and errors that make them stand out. So why would a 2022 Washington State Quarter be worth more than face value? It comes down to a combination of factors: rarity, condition, mint errors, and collector demand. Even though the U.S. Mint produces millions of quarters each year, not all quarters are created equal. Some coins are struck more sharply than others, some have minting flaws that make them unique, and some are preserved in pristine condition while the majority get worn down in everyday circulation. For coin collectors, rarity is always tied to demand, and when there's demand for a specific issue or error, the price can skyrocket. The design of the Washington State Quarter itself is truly a reflection of the pride and beauty of the Pacific Northwest. Washington, known as the Evergreen State, is celebrated for its mountains, forests, and breathtaking scenery. The design chosen for the quarter features one of the state's most iconic landmarks, Mount Rainier, towering in the background while a salmon leaps from the water in the foreground. It's a powerful and elegant design that captures the essence of Washington: majestic mountains, rich natural resources, and the importance of the salmon to the culture and environment of the region. George Washington's profile still graces the obverse side, a tradition that ties the series back to its beginnings in 1932, but with updated features that reflect the more modern minting techniques used in recent years. Collectors are fascinated by these modern quarters because while they may be recent, they can hide valuable secrets. One of the key things that makes a 2022 Washington State Quarter special is its potential for minting errors. For example, there could be double die errors, where the design appears doubled due to a slight misalignment during the striking process. There could also be off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or die cracks, small but significant flaws that instantly make a coin stand out from the millions of others. These kinds of errors aren't just quirks, they're highly sought-after treasures in the coin collecting world, but condition plays an equally important role. The grading scale used by collectors ranges from heavily circulated coins at the bottom to mint state coins at the top. A 2022 Washington State Quarter that's been jangled in pockets and purses, scratched, worn down, and dulled by use is only worth its face value. But take that same coin in pristine, uncirculated condition, sharp details, shining luster, and no visible wear, and suddenly its value rises dramatically. Add in a rare mint error or unique variation, and you've got a coin that collectors will compete fiercely to own. Another element that makes this coin fascinating is its cultural resonance. Washington State represents innovation, natural beauty, and history. The salmon on the coin isn't just a decorative choice, it represents the lifeblood of the Pacific Northwest, an animal deeply tied to the ecosystems and heritage of the region. The mountain in the background, Mount Rainier, is not only Washington's tallest peak but also a symbol of endurance and strength. So when you hold a Washington State Quarter in your hand, you're not just holding a piece of money, you're holding a miniature artwork that tells the story of a state and its people. That's part of why coin collecting is so rewarding. Every coin has a story to tell, and sometimes, those stories make the coin itself priceless. The year 2022 saw a number of Washington quarters being minted, but among them, a select few have become stars in the eyes of collectors. Maybe you're wondering, why would anyone pay thousands of dollars for a quarter? The answer lies in scarcity. Think about baseball cards, stamps, or rare paintings. The rarer and more unique the item, the higher the value. Coins are no different. And when a coin is both rare and connected to a beloved series like the state quarters, its desirability only increases. Now imagine this: you're at the store, you get some change back, and you barely glance at it. But hiding there is a shiny 2022 Washington state quarter. Most people would drop it in a jar and forget about it. But if you take a closer look, if the coin is in superb condition, or if you spot something unusual about it, you might just be holding something far more valuable than 25 cents. It's the thrill of the hunt, the idea that a hidden fortune could be waiting in your pocket change, that keeps coin collectors excited. And now comes the moment you've been waiting for. Among the rarest and most desirable examples of the 2022 Washington state quarter, in exceptional condition and featuring the right errors, the value has been recorded at an astonishing $75,000. Yes, $75,000 for a single $quarter coin from 2022. That's the magic of numismatics. What looks ordinary at first glance can turn out to be extraordinary. So the next time you find a Washington state quarter in your change, don't dismiss it. Examine it carefully, check its details, and see if you've uncovered one of these rare treasures. Because who knows? That little coin in your hand might just be worth a fortune. Today, we are setting our focus on a coin that might be sitting quietly in a jar of change, tucked away in an old drawer, or perhaps even resting in your collection without you realizing its potential value. We're talking about the United States of America Washington quarter from the year 1985. At first glance, this coin looks just like any other quarter you might spend at the grocery store or slip into a parking meter, but when you dig deeper, the 1985 Washington quarter reveals a story of design, minting, and collecting that makes it far more fascinating than most people imagine. The Washington Quarter series is one of the most iconic coin programs in American history. It was first issued in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, and what was intended to be a one-year commemorative design quickly turned into the standard quarter design for decades. By the time 1985 came along, the Washington quarter had already been in circulation for more than 50 years, serving as one of the most recognizable coins in American pockets. The obverse, with its familiar profile of the nation's first president, symbolizes leadership, strength, and the very foundation of the United States. Designed by John Flanagan, this portrait has become one of the most enduring images in U.S. coinage. On the reverse side of the 1985 quarter, we still see the heraldic eagle with wings spread, clutching arrows, and an olive branch, a powerful image of both America's readiness to defend itself and its commitment to peace. What makes the 1985 Washington quarter especially interesting to collectors is the context of its minting. During the mid-1980s, the U.S. Mint was using advanced minting technology compared to earlier decades, but even then, not every strike was perfect. The Philadelphia and Denver mints produced millions of quarters in 1985, yet among those millions are coins that stand apart because of subtle details, minting variations, or simply the condition in which they were preserved. While most 1985 quarters went straight into circulation, passed from hand to hand for everyday purchases, a very small fraction were carefully stored away, never used, and remain in pristine, uncirculated condition. Those are the coins that today's collectors are willing to pay a premium to acquire. Condition plays an enormous role in determining the value of a coin. Collectors grade coins on a scale, ranging from well-worn pieces that have lost most of their detail, to mint state coins that look nearly as perfect as the day they were struck. A 1985 Washington quarter that's been through decades of circulation is usually worth only its face value, but when you find one that has sharp details, bright luster, and no scratches or blemishes, you are looking at a coin that suddenly becomes far more valuable. It is this gap between the ordinary and the extraordinary that excites coin hunters and makes every discovery feel like a treasure Another fascinating element about the 1985 quarter is the potential for minting errors. While the mint works tirelessly to produce perfect coins, errors inevitably slip through. These errors can include off-center strikes, double dies where the design is duplicated slightly, die cracks, missing elements, or even coins struck on the wrong metal planchet. These are not just small flaws, they are unique fingerprints that make certain coins one of a kind. For collectors, error coins are like rare gems, and the 1985 Washington quarter has its share of such rare examples. Beyond its physical details, the 1985 Washington quarter also carries with it the spirit of its time. America in the mid-1980s was a country of change, optimism, and growth. The economy was shifting, technology was advancing, and the culture was evolving. Coins minted during this period are more than metal, they are tiny, enduring reminders of the era they were created in. Holding a 1985 quarter is holding a piece of 1980s America, a small but tangible link to the daily lives of millions of people during that decade. Now imagine this: you pick up a handful of coins from your change, and among them is a Washington quarter from 1985. Most people would spend it without a second thought. But if you pause for a moment, examine it closely, and notice that it shines differently, that its details are sharp, or perhaps even that something about it looks unusual, you might be holding something far more valuable than just 25 cents. That's the thrill of coin collecting, the idea that hidden among the ordinary are treasures waiting to be found. For collectors and enthusiasts, the joy of discovering such coins isn't just about money, it's about history, rarity, and the story each coin tells. The Washington quarter from 1985 has become one of those fascinating coins where condition, rarity, and sometimes error varieties can combine to create immense value. While millions exist, only a handful meet the strict standards that make them true collector's items, and now we come to the part you've been waiting for: the true potential value of this coin. Among the rarest examples of the 1985 Washington quarter, in exceptional condition, preserved in uncirculated or mint state quality, and in some cases with unique errors that set them apart from the rest, the value has reached an astonishing $85,000, yes, $85,000 for a single $quarter coin from 1985. What most people see as spare change could, under the right circumstances, be a life-changing discovery. That is the beauty of numismatics, and it is why collectors continue to search through jars, rolls, and old collections. Because you never know, the next treasure might be sitting right in your pocket. Today, we're going back to the year 1971 to talk about a coin that many people overlook but collectors know has a special place in American numismatics: the Washington quarter. Now, the year 1971 might seem like just another ordinary year for U.S. coinage, but when you explore the story behind these quarters and look closely at their details, you'll find a surprising amount of value, both historically and financially, waiting to be uncovered. The Washington quarter had already been in circulation for nearly 4 decades by the time 1971 rolled around. First introduced in 1932, this coin was originally created to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. John Flanagan's portrait of Washington on the obverse had become an enduring image by then, instantly recognizable to millions of Americans who use these coins every day. The reverse design, with the majestic heraldic eagle, wings spread wide and perched proudly on a bundle of arrows with an olive branch beneath, symbolized both strength and peace. This classic imagery carried the Washington quarter through generations, making it one of the most collected and beloved U.S. coins ever made. In 1971, the United States was in the midst of important changes, both politically and economically. The country had just left the silver coinage era a few years earlier. Up until 1964, U.S. quarters contained 90% silver. But with the rising price of silver and the strain on the nation's coin supply, the government transitioned to a copper-nickel-clad composition. By 1971, all quarters were being struck with a copper core layered between 2 outer sheets of nickel. While this made them more durable and cost-effective, it also meant that quarters from this era no longer carried intrinsic silver value. Instead, their value would come from rarity, condition, and collector demand. The Philadelphia and Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of Washington quarters in 1971, so at first glance, you might think these coins are common and worth no more than face value. And for most examples, that's true. Circulated 1971 quarters, the ones that have been passed from hand to hand for decades, generally remain worth just 25 cents. But here's where things get interesting. A small number of these coins stand out because of their pristine condition, mint errors, and rare varieties. Those special examples are what collectors search tirelessly for, and they are what transform an everyday coin into a valuable treasure. Condition is one of the biggest factors. Imagine a 1971 quarter that has been preserved in mint state, never released into circulation, with sharp details, brilliant luster, and not a single scratch or blemish. Such coins are incredibly rare because the majority of quarters minted that year went directly into everyday commerce. Finding a coin that has survived more than 50 years without a mark is like finding a needle in a haystack, and collectors are willing to pay serious money for that kind of rarity. Then there are the mint errors. Coin errors are fascinating because they're essentially accidents that slip through quality control at the U.S. Mint, and each error creates a unique collectible. Some 1971 quarters show doubled die obverse, where the lettering or details of Washington's profile appear slightly doubled due to misalignment during the striking process. Others have off-center strikes, where the design doesn't sit squarely on the coin, leaving blank space on one side. There are also clipped planchets, die cracks, and even coins struck on the wrong metal blanks. These minting mistakes are scarce, and collectors love them precisely because no two error coins are exactly alike. Another factor is the grading scale, which runs from well-worn coins at the bottom to mint state and even proof-like examples at the top. Proof quarters, struck specifically for collectors with mirrored finishes and sharper details, were also made in 1971 by the San Francisco Mint. These proof coins, when kept in pristine condition, can hold significant value. But among regular circulation strikes, those graded at the very top by professional grading services are the ones that attract the most attention and the highest prices at auction. Now let's think about what makes the 1971 Washington quarter historically special. This was an era when the U.S. Mint was refining its clad coinage process, still relatively new at the time. It was also a period when coin collecting was booming in popularity, thanks in part to the changes in composition and design during the late 1960s. Quarters from this time carry not only the image of Washington and the eagle but also the spirit of a changing America, an America moving away from precious metal coinage and embracing modern production. For collectors, owning a pristine or rare 1971 quarter is like holding onto a piece of that transition, a reminder of how even the smallest details in history can have lasting importance. Imagine this scenario: you're searching through your change, maybe rolling coins or just casually glancing through a pile of quarters. Most of them are worn, common, and unremarkable. But then you spot a 1971 quarter that seems different. It shines brighter, its details are sharper, maybe something about the lettering or strike seems unusual. You set it aside, do a little research, and realize that what you're holding might not just be 25 cents, it could be a highly valuable collectible worth thousands of dollars. That's the kind of excitement that drives the world of numismatics, and it's why people never stop searching. And here is the part you've been waiting for. Among the rarest and most desirable examples of the Washington quarter from the year 1971, in extraordinary condition and with rare error varieties, the value has been recorded at an incredible $77,000, yes, $77,000 for a single Washington quarter that most people would mistake for everyday change. That's the power of rarity, condition, and history coming together in one small coin. So the next time you come across a 1971 quarter, take a closer look. You might just be holding a hidden treasure worth far more than you ever imagined. Today we are taking a journey back to the mid-1960s, a fascinating and sometimes overlooked period in American coinage. Our focus is on the Washington quarter minted in the year 1966, a coin that many people think of as just another piece of everyday change but which in reality holds a story of transition, rarity, and surprising value. If you've ever thought that only old or silver coins could be valuable, the tale of the 1966 Washington quarter might just change your mind. The Washington Quarter series began in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, with the design by John Flanagan showing a bold portrait of the first president on the obverse. For decades, Americans carried this familiar face in their pockets, spending quarters in diners, shops, and theaters. By the time 1966 came around, the Washington quarter had already been a part of daily American life for over 3 decades. Yet this particular year marked a dramatic turning point in U.S. coinage history, one that makes the 1966 quarter unique and worthy of special attention. To understand why, we need to step back to 1965, when the United States Mint ended the long tradition of minting dimes, quarters, and half dollars and 90% silver. Rising silver prices and coin shortages had made it unsustainable for the mint to continue producing coins with intrinsic metal value greater than their face value. So, beginning in 1965, the mint transitioned to a copper-nickel clad composition, 2 outer layers of copper-nickel bonded to a pure copper core. The 1966 Washington quarter was only the second full year of this new clad design, making it an important piece of numismatic history. No longer a silver coin, the 1966 quarter represents the dawn of a modern era in American coinage. Another fascinating element of 1966 coinage is the absence of mint marks. In an effort to discourage coin hoarding during the changeover from silver to clad coins, the mint decided to remove mint marks from all coins struck in 1965, 1966, and 1967. This meant that no matter whether a quarter was produced in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, it bore no mint mark. For collectors, this is highly unusual, because mint marks are typically key details in identifying and differentiating coins. The lack of mint marks makes 1966 quarters stand out in the Washington Quarter series, adding an extra layer of historical significance. While hundreds of millions of Washington quarters were struck in 1966, condition and rarity still play a huge role in determining value today. Most of these coins circulated heavily and show the usual signs of wear, scratches, dull surfaces, and flattened details from years of use. But a small fraction of 1,966 quarters survived in exceptional condition, either by chance or because they were pulled aside by collectors early on. A pristine, mint-state example with sharp details and beautiful luster is rare and highly desirable, especially from this transitional era in U.S. coin history. Even more exciting are the error coins from 1966. Minting errors are like hidden gems, created when something goes wrong during production but the coin is released into circulation anyway. Collectors seek these out because they are truly one of a kind. Known errors from this period include double die varieties, where parts of the design appear doubled, off-center strikes, where the coin's design is misaligned, and clipped planchets, where part of the coin's edge is missing. These error coins are extremely scarce, and when combined with the historical importance of the 1966 quarter, they can command very high prices. Proof-like examples of 1966 quarters also exist, though not in the traditional sense. The U.S. Mint suspended regular proof sets between 1965 and 1967 and instead issued what were called special mint sets. These coins were struck with extra care and often display sharper details and more mirror-like surfaces than regular circulation strikes. A 1966 quarter from one of these special mint sets in superb condition can be especially valuable today, since far fewer of these coins were preserved compared to other years with regular proof production. The 1966 quarter is more than just metal, it's a symbol of America in transition. It represents a nation moving away from silver coinage, experimenting with new materials, and trying to balance tradition with practicality. It carries the image of Washington, reminding us of the nation's founding, while also standing as a marker of change during the 1960s, a decade defined by transformation in nearly every aspect of American life. To hold a 1966 quarter is to hold a piece of that story, a coin that links the old and the new. Imagine this scenario: you are sorting through a collection of old coins, perhaps inherited from family, or maybe just checking your loose change. You see a Washington quarter from 1966, and at first, you don't think much of it. But upon closer inspection, you notice its surfaces gleam with an unusual brilliance, or maybe you detect a slight doubling on the lettering, or perhaps it seems unusually well struck compared to others you've seen. That's the moment where a simple coin transforms into a treasure. That's the magic of coin collecting, the thrill that something extraordinary could be hiding right before your eyes. collectors worldwide are increasingly turning their attention to coins like the 1966 Washington quarter, because they capture both history and rarity. And in the world of numismatics, rarity plus demand equals value. The truth is that while millions of these coins were made, only a handful survive in the kind of top-notch, error-laden, or special conditions that make them highly sought after, and now, the moment you've been waiting for. Among the rarest, most pristine, and highly desirable examples of the 1966 Washington quarter, coins preserved in extraordinary condition with unique characteristics have reached auction prices as high as $147,000, yes, $147,000 for a single Washington quarter that many people would overlook as ordinary change. It just goes to show that the next time you come across a 1966 quarter, you should take a closer look, because you might just be holding a piece of history worth far more than you ever imagined. Today, we are diving deep into a piece of American history that many people have probably seen, held in their hands, and spent without a second thought, the Washington quarter from 1973. At first glance, it may just look like any other coin that has passed through millions of cash registers, vending machines, and pockets. But when you take a closer look, you'll realize this coin is far more than just 25 cents, it's a story, a symbol, and for the lucky few, it could even be a life-changing discovery. So stay with me until the very end, because we're going to talk about the true value of this 1973 Washington quarter and reveal the incredible price it could fetch today. Let's step back in time for a moment to understand the world this coin was born into. The year was 1973. America was in the midst of major change, political shifts, cultural revolutions, and economic uncertainty. The Vietnam War was nearing its end, Watergate was dominating headlines, and across the nation, people were grappling with questions of trust, progress, and the future of the country. Against this backdrop, the Washington quarter continued to serve its role as a simple, everyday coin, quietly circulating in the pockets of millions of Americans. But like so many coins, what seems ordinary at first often hides extraordinary secrets. The Washington quarter itself has a rich history. Introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, it became one of the most enduring designs in American coinage. The obverse, or front, of the coin proudly features the profile of George Washington, designed by sculptor John Flanagan. His strong and dignified face symbolizes leadership, resilience, and the spirit of the nation. By 1973, this design had already been in circulation for over 40 years, and it remained a powerful reminder of America's founding values. Now, flip the coin over, and you'll find the reverse design that was still in use at the time, a bold American eagle, wings outstretched, perched on a bundle of arrows, framed by olive branches. The eagle has long been a symbol of freedom and strength, and this design captures both the power and the peace that America sought to balance during the 20th century. Holding this coin in your hand is like holding a miniature monument to American ideals. But what makes the 1973 quarter stand out? After all, millions were produced at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, making it a common coin in everyday life. The answer lies in the details: rarity, condition, and errors. Coins like these, especially those struck decades ago, are only as valuable as their state of preservation. The truth is, most 1973 quarters were heavily used in daily commerce. They jingled in pockets, scraped against other coins, and passed through countless hands. Very few survived in pristine, uncirculated condition, which is exactly what collectors are hungry for today. Collectors search for coins graded at the highest levels, MS 65, MS 67, or even higher on the Sheldon scale. A coin with such a high grade means it has almost no blemishes, sharp details, and a brilliant, original luster that makes it look like it was just struck yesterday. Imagine stumbling upon a 1973 quarter that has been perfectly preserved for over 50 years. It's not just rare, it's extraordinary, but condition isn't the only factor that makes this coin potentially so valuable. Error coins play a huge role in boosting rarity and collector appeal. During the minting process, mistakes happen, and those mistakes create unique varieties that collectors chase after. Some of the most sought-after errors for quarters include double strikes, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and die cracks. Each of these errors makes the coin unique, one of a kind in the entire world. And when you combine the 1973 date with one of these fascinating minting errors, you've got a coin that can command staggering prices at auction. Another point of interest with the 1973 Washington quarter lies in its composition. By this time, the U.S. Mint had long since transitioned from silver to a copper-nickel-clad composition for circulating quarters. But here's where things get really interesting. On very rare occasions, transitional errors occur. These are coins accidentally struck on the wrong planchet, sometimes even silver blanks left over from earlier years. Such coins are the crown jewels of numismatic collecting because they are so rare, and they represent a mistake that never should have happened. A 1973 quarter struck on a silver planchet, for example, would be a jaw-dropping find worth an incredible sum. It's also worth noting that 1973 quarters have been found with strong strikes and bold details, which makes them even more desirable to those who appreciate artistry in coinage. When you combine historical significance, patriotic symbolism, and the thrill of rare errors or mint-condition pieces, you begin to understand why this seemingly ordinary coin has captured the fascination of collectors around the world. Now, imagine the excitement of finding such a coin in your own collection. Maybe it's been tucked away in a jar of change for decades, passed down from a family member, or sitting quietly in a forgotten drawer. The truth is, treasures like these often go unnoticed until someone takes the time to look closely. That's why collectors and treasure hunters alike are always on the hunt. It's the thrill of discovery, the chance that an overlooked coin might actually be a hidden fortune. And speaking of fortune, it's time for the moment you've been waiting for. Just how much could a 1973 Washington quarter be worth today if it's the right coin, in the right condition, with the right rarity? The answer might just shock you. Believe it or not, a 1973 Washington quarter in pristine uncirculated condition, with certain rare qualities, has been valued at an astounding $165,800. Yes, you heard that correctly. One coin, a simple quarter that most people would never think twice about spending, could be worth more than some people's annual salary, more than a luxury car, even more than many homes. This is what makes the world of coin collecting so incredible. Hidden fortunes are waiting in plain sight. So the next time you come across a 1973 quarter, don't just dismiss it as pocket change. Take a closer look, because you never know, you might be holding a piece of American history that could change your life. If you enjoyed this journey into the world of rare and valuable coins, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our future discoveries. Share this with fellow collectors and friends who love a good treasure hunt, and who knows, you might inspire someone to check their change and uncover a fortune of their own. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy collecting.